My guest today is David Goggins. David Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also a highly accomplished ultramarathon runner. For those of you that don't know, ultramarathons are distances longer than 26 miles, and in David's case, often longer than 200 miles. He also held a Guinness World Record for the most pull-ups completed in 24 hours. His home was abusive. His school environment was abusive. He essentially had no positive resources directed his way. And in his 20s, he found himself to be obese. That is more than 300 pounds, working a job he despised for minimal pay. And it was at that point that David began an inner dialogue that forced him to explore the demons born out of his childhood, but also the position that he found himself in as a young man. And then began the journey to navigate that dialogue and transform himself into the Navy SEAL, the ultramarathon runner, the best-selling author, and the extraordinarily positive and influential man that he is today. We talk about the mindset that allowed him to achieve those things. But today, David really lets us under the hood. He lets us into the form of inner dialogue that he has to embrace, indeed that he has to grapple with on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times throughout the day and night, in order to impose the sort of self-discipline that he is so well known for. David Goggins, welcome.
My man. Good to see you again, man.
Great to see you. It was late 2016, early 2017, I believe, when you were in my lab at Stanford.
Yes, sir.
We did a little work later that day down in San Jose. And gosh, see you everywhere, but it's not enough. So great to have you here.
Thanks for having me on, brother. People don't understand that my day is broken up into segments. I work out, I eat, I sleep, but I spend most of my time studying. So like I'm in the medical world. I'm a paramedic in Canada, but I spend a lot of my time trying to nuke every single thing about it because I'm not trying to just be a paramedic, learn about veins and arteries and how the heart pumps and stuff like that. I'm trying to learn to the point where I can save someone's life. And even though paramedics are doing that all over the world, I'm trying to be that paramedic that can really dissect exactly what's going on.
What does your process for studying look like?
I'm not a real smart guy. And what I mean by that is I was born with ADD, ADHD. My brain cannot retain information. I'm not some genetic freak when it comes to running, when it comes to lifting weights. I am absolutely the bottom of the barrel. And people will never believe me. And they can just, whatever, believe what you want to believe. So when you ask me this question about what does studying look like for me, I have to go over the same page over and over and over and over again. While Jennifer can look at that page while she's, quizzing me, she'll learn it right then as she doesn't know anything about it. It's the most frustrating thing in the world how my brain works. So what I do is I literally sit there with a pen and paper and I have my books and I go through and have to write everything down every single day. I will study the same page until it's photographic memory from writing the same thing down. And then from there, I'll go back through and relearn it again. So I'll learn the bulk of it, but then I'll go through and learn the small things within that. So if it's a medication, I'll learn what the medication does. I'll learn how to even say the medication because these medications aren't like albuterol. No, it's very big words. So I'll go through, learn how to say the name. Then I'll go through, learn what the dose is. Then I'll go through, and this is like every single day. So not like, oh, I got it. Let's just go through. No, nothing is I got it. Everything I do in life, it sucks. Everything I do in life, it sucks. That's why when I was 300 pounds and 24 years old, it wasn't like I had some big epiphany of, let's just go be a Navy SEAL and let's lose some weight. No. I knew my entire life was going to be a struggle, which is why I just ignored it. And I said, I'm not even trying to jump off into this shit and learn how to read, how to write, how to memorize, how to become something I am not. But through that process, something happened to me. And I realized this is why I feel sorry for no one. In this podcast, they're going to really not like me because people are going to think that I am maybe lying or maybe fibbing or exaggerating. No. I was the lowest form on earth, no talent, no ability to learn. I don't have to do it. So think about it. I'm 49 years old and I'm a multi-millionaire. I don't have to do anything. So all I thought about when I was growing up is I can't wait till one day get to the point where I no longer have to do this stuff. But what happens, I got older, it became a way of living. So how I do every day is how I do every day. It's a discipline, it's a regimen, It was a choice I made. And the choice I made was, what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you willing to give up to find every bit of who you are as a human being? And I was willing to give up everything to do that. So studying is no joke. Everybody has the ability to do it, but they just don't want to. They want to keep asking questions and keep going to seminars. I will not sugarcoat what I'm going to say to you. All of you know what I'm saying is the truth. And you know it too. Hard work looks horrible. If you ain't got nothing, I hate to tell you, what it looks like is ugly. It's not motivating at all. It looks like a man being stuck in a fucking dungeon and there's no fucking way out. But you have the fucking key, but you refuse to use it. So yes, no documentary on David Goggins.
The real life.
David
life. Goggins is the documentary.
Why most people don't want to do that, build that willpower, is because it is scary. It unlocks a whole bunch of things about who you are and who you're not. And a lot of people don't want to go down that journey to discover who they are and who they're not, because it's not a pretty journey. Like people say, hey, well, how come you haven't retired yet? Do you think it's gonna let me just retire because my knees hurt? It's telling me every morning, I wake up like, man, my knees hurt, my legs hurt, my body hurts, but you can still run. So why aren't you running? If you can still run, there'll be a time when you can't lace them up anymore, but you can still run. So I still run. When the time comes I can't run, the body will say, you just can't run. But if I can still do something, that willpower that I have created, it makes me do it every fucking day because my body knows you still can. Therefore I do. Second you stop, the willpower is gone. I'm out running at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, in the gym, long sessions by myself. I've trained 99% of my life alone. No one pat me on the back. I lived alone for so many years in this misery, and you're able to get out of it by yourself. I can take myself to such a level of real passion and purpose. I don't need anyone. That's why people come to me to motivate them. No one can motivate me. Whenever I'm down, I'm like, oh, hang on, motherfucker. Oh, you know the truth. You know the truth. You know the darkness of the fucking dungeons and the fucking demons that fly. You know, and then from there, it's like, okay, you were there. You know this. There was no one there to pick up the rucksack, to pick up the boat, to pick up the log, to go in there. It was you. So whenever shit gets nasty, David Goggins goes, you had nobody anyway, motherfucker. That shit makes me fucking nuts. There was no fucking team. It was you. There was no weight loss program or mom and dad waking you up saying you can do it, you can be better, trying to build belief. You built belief when you had nothing. As times get hard for me, the truth comes out. And my truth is powerful as fuck. It's tangible. It's real.
So many of us, men and women, old and young, hear something and feel something in your message. Like, yeah, like it seems kind of crazy. Gosh, like, doesn't he ever just relax? You know, what about his sleep? You know,
Yep,
look at his feet. He's gonna injure himself. I've heard, listen, I'll be very direct. I got friends who are in the teams who just go, yeah, what's he gonna do when he can't run? And I know the answer is keep running.
That's right.
Right, but it's more comfortable for people, even high achievers.
Especially high achievers.
To believe that if you took one thing away, that it would all go away. It's absolutely clear that's not the case with you. I'm 100% convinced. I just know that because what we're talking about is this.
You know how many times I haven't been able to run? 2 heart surgeries, multiple knee surgeries, and after every knee surgery, they say you're not gonna run again. And I'm fine with that. There's no running up here, bro. This was what it was all about. That's what they lost. What if you can't run? Give a fuck. It was never about running. Why do you think I run? It's the worst thing. I hate doing it more than anything.
Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex would start to regress if you loved running.
Think about it. Every day I wake up, I don't just run a mile, 2 miles. It's the one thing I hate the most to do, and I do it like I love it. 250, 60, 70, 300-mile runs at one time, no sleep. And every step, when I get to think about this, I get to the fucking start line, cussing at Jennifer. Why the fuck am I here? I hate this shit. After 70-some hours of running, every fucking question I ever had is answered. Every question I had is answered. We think we're supposed to breathe air and have kids and pay the bills and shit. Everybody, what's this life about? That makes no sense. You're being tested, my friend. Tests come when you have not studied.
This structure, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, has inputs and outputs from a bunch of places. You'll probably not be surprised to learn that it's strongly activated when we move our body, when we don't want to move our body. I feel like it's like the David Goggins structure, right?
It really is.
It is. It also has strong connections to the dopamine reward pathway. And everyone goes, yay, dopamine reward. Everyone loves dopamine. But dopamine's badly understood. Everyone thinks dopamine hits, it's about reward. It's about motivation and drive. And there are pain inputs to the dopamine centers of the brain. No one talks about that. Everyone's like, oh, you want the chocolate, chocolate sex. Yay, dopamine sex.
I love it.
Yay, dopamine.
I love it.
Yeah, that's all true. Pain releases dopamine. Anterior mid-cingulate cortex can trigger the release of dopamine in response to this thing that we're calling friction. And that's a learned thing. That's something that no animal or human being comes into the world learning. We all are averse to pain and like pleasure, like sugar, fat, don't like hot surfaces.
Right.
But this is a structure that learns. It has neuroplasticity, the ability to change throughout the entire lifespan. People say, oh, it has plasticity, you can change it. But guess what? It has plasticity in both directions. It can grow, but just as easily as it can grow, it's like silly putty, it can shrink. It requires constant upkeep. That answer isn't one that people are going to like. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex is smaller in obese people. It gets bigger when they diet. It's larger in athletes. It's especially large or grows larger in people that see themselves as challenged and overcome some challenge.
Right.
And in people that live a very long time, this area keeps its size. In many ways, scientists are starting to think of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex not just as one of the seats of willpower, but perhaps actually the seat of the will to live. And when I learned about the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, I was like almost out of my seat. And I've been in the neuroscience game since I was 20. And I was so pumped because I've heard of the amygdala, fear, prefrontal cortex, it's planning and action. I could tell you every brain area and I teach neuroanatomy to medical students. But when I started seeing the data on the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, I was like, whoa, this is interesting. All the data point to the fact that we can build this area up.
Yep.
But that as quickly as we build it up, if we don't continue to invest in things that are hard for us, that we don't want to do, that's the part that feels so Goggin-esque to me, that we don't want to do. Like if you love the ice bath, yeah, I love the ice bath, and you go from 1 minute to 10 minutes, guess what? Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex did not grow. But if you hate the cold water, if you're afraid of drowning and you get into water and put your head under, then your anterior and survive, then the anterior mid-cingulate cortex gets bigger. But if you don't do it the next day, or if you do it the next day and you enjoy it, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex shrinks again.